In this video, we will introduce hardscape placement. Be aware that this is a general introduction and we will not be able to describe placement for every scenario. Your crew leader or supervisor will work within local zoning regulations to ensure that the project is in compliance with local, county, and state regulations. Local and state regulations are in place to reduce risk, such as fence height and placement to maintain fire control access and line of sight for drivers. Regulations may also dictate the locations of fire pits and outdoor fireplaces. It is very important that you are aware and follow all township regulations regarding the zoning, permitting, and liability of any hardscape placement. Increasingly, townships and municipalities are also getting much stricter regarding stormwater management. Any impermeable surface can contribute to stormwater, so most new construction requires stormwater management planning. Small jobs such as small patios and garden sheds under 1,500 square feet may be exempt. And remember, before you dig, always make sure that the underground utilities have been marked. Anytime you dig on anyone's property in Pennsylvania, including your own, you must call 811. Also known as Pennsylvania One Call, the 811 service will notify all utilities to mark underground infrastructure such as water, gas, telephone, electrical lines, and any kind of buried cable. Call at least several days ahead when you'll be digging to allow time for the utility personnel to mark your utilities. If you dig without having the utilities marked, your business will be liable for damages caused. The location of existing utility lines can have a major impact on hardscapes and softscapes. It can impact your ability to grade the landscape, install irrigation lines, plant trees, and install fences. Hardscapes are the non-plant features that get installed in a landscape, and they include pavers or paved patios, driveways, sidewalks, and more. If you are new to the placement of hardscapes, you should be working with someone who has construction experience. And we will go over the basics, but you will also learn a lot through experience in the field. To begin, every hardscape project should start with a plan. And this plan should include all the information you will need to build the project efficiently and correctly for the client. You will most likely be working with a landscape construction plan. The landscape construction plan should include an arrow pointing to the north, existing plants and buildings, street addresses, adjacent roads, and property lines. Orient yourself by the position of the north arrow, existing structures, or trees. For example, this plan shows an existing tennis court, entrance, and a hedge. In general, hardscapes must be measured and placed with a high degree of accuracy. The materials are expensive and permanent. By having a plan created in advance, you will have a very good idea of how much material is required, as well as where exactly it will be placed. Another important thing to keep in mind is water flow. Hardscapes are often very close to structures, and they need to be sloped so that the water will drain away from the structure. As a rule of thumb, hardscapes should be sloped about 1 to 2 degrees away from a structure. You will use the plan to determine the correct spot to place the hardscape. Ask yourself, are there known locations where we will be measuring from to accurately place the project? For example, if the plan shows the back door of the house, there might be the known location of where you will center a deck. Another question to think about, does the plan include measurements for placing the project in the right location? This landscape construction plan directs you to build a walkway centered on a gate, an open patio centered on a bay window, and a pavilion with columns. The dimensions from the edge of the patio to the covered pavilion are given. The dimensions between pavilion columns are also given. Once you've identified the location, it needs to be marked on the site. And there are 2 common ways that contractors mark projects. One is using line paint, and the second is using stakes and a mason's line or another low-stretch string or rope. Line paint is a temporary paint. The containers are engineered so that the cans can spray when upside down by hand or from a wheeled wand. Be aware that the line painted will be thick and shaky, so it can be hard to make highly accurate measurements from this sort of mark. It is ideal for projects that allow a little room for improvisation. Line paint is wonderful for marking out more free-form areas, such as the edge of this bed. Here, an old rope was used to lay out the new edge of the landscape bed. The rope can be moved until it looks like what you want. Then, line paint was sprayed over it and the rope was removed. Now, an edging machine can be used over this line to cut the new edge. Line paint can also be used to mark circular beds, such as a round planting bed or a fire pit. A rebar stake can be placed at the center of the circle. A non-stretched rope or chain can be used to represent the radius, which is the distance between the center point and the edge of the circle. Walk around the edge of the circle, spraying paint until the circle is complete. The second method is to use stakes and a mason's line to mark the line. Wooden stakes or rebar are placed in the ground at each corner. If the sides of the area are long, you may place additional stakes to hold the string. Then tie the mason's line to one of the corners. Bring the mason's line to the next stake, wrap it around the second piece of stake, and continue to the next point. And be sure that you are pulling tight. Always wrap in the same direction, either to the inside or the outside of the stake. The advantage to this method is that the line is thin and it is easier to maintain an exact measuring point. Keep in mind that you cannot put any pressure on the mason's line when you are measuring from it, as doing so will change the accuracy of your measurements. In summary, hardscapes like patios, driveways, and retaining walls are permanent elements in a landscape. In general, they require highly accurate placement. Landscapers need to know how to use a plan to find the right location for construction, comply with state and local zoning regulations, and mark project boundaries with paint or stakes and mason's lines. As you work with the experienced members of your crew, you will learn how to accurately place hardscapes according to landscape construction plans.